She was the face of the 90s, the woman Vogue once called the most beautiful in the world. Linda Evangelista wasn't just another model. She was a phenomenon, someone who didn't just wear clothes but gave them life, story, and attitude. Every step she took on the runway, every glance she gave to the camera, created an image that defined an era. When Linda cut her hair short for the first time, everything changed. She had gone to Milan, ready to conquer the fashion world, booked for 20 runway shows. But the moment designers saw her new look, the daring crop that would later become iconic, 15 of them cancelled her. They didn't understand it. To them, she looked too different, too bold. But Linda didn't hide behind regret. She walked forward. One season later, that very haircut became the most wanted look on earth. Women everywhere rushed to salons, asking for the Linda cut. That was the beginning of what the world would later call the Linda effect. From Versace's runways to George Michael's legendary Freedom music video, she was everywhere, glowing under the lights, untouchable, magnetic. She was not just part of fashion's golden age, she was the golden age. And then, just as quickly as she appeared, she was gone. What happened to Linda Evangelista? Why did she disappear at the height of her fame? And how did one single decision change her life and her face forever? Before the silence and the surgeries, Linda stood at the very heart of a fashion revolution. Alongside Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Christy Turlington, and Claudia Schiffer, she wasn't just one of the supermodels, she defined what that word meant. She didn't stand in the spotlight, she was the spotlight. But unlike many others who were discovered by chance, found in malls, or approached by scouts, Linda Evangelista chased her dream. "I really wanted to wear fashion," she once said. "I wanted to model because I was obsessed with fashion, obsessed with clothing. I just loved it. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wasn't discovered in a mall." From a young age, Linda was drawn to glamour. She would sneak into her aunt's makeup bag, try on jewelry, and spend hours decorating her bedroom walls with pages ripped out of Vogue magazines. Every photograph became a dream she wanted to step into. Her journey wasn't easy. In the beginning, she worked small bridal catalog shoots in Canada, earning just $8 an hour. Every cent she made went into building her test portfolio, her one-way ticket to Europe. When she finally arrived in Paris and Milan, the jobs didn't come easily. She was shorter than the runway ideal, less conventional than what agencies wanted. But Linda didn't give up. "It took me a few years to get going," she admitted. "I worked every day, but I didn't do genius things right from the beginning. I went through a lot to get where I am, and I appreciate it. It's what I hoped for." She wasn't an overnight success, she was the opposite. She worked tirelessly, year after year, until the world finally noticed. And when Vogue booked her for the first time, it changed everything. Linda was officially in. But the real transformation came when she met photographer Steven Meisel. Together, they didn't just make photos, they made art. They became creative soulmates, pushing each other to explore beauty, emotion, and character in ways no one had done before. Their chemistry created some of the most unforgettable images in fashion history. "It's very easy to work once with a photographer," Linda said. "Everybody's curious. But to get rebooked over and over again, that takes something more. They have to love you." With Meisel, Linda became a chameleon. Every shoot was a new persona, glamorous one day, avant-garde the next. Together, they built a visual language that was both polished and daring, elegant and transformative. As fashion evolved from minimalism to high-octane glamour, Linda evolved with it. She was fearless, never afraid to change her look, her image, her identity. Then came the moment that changed everything. "We were just hitting fashion, people," she recalled. "And suddenly, I was being recognized by kids on the street." That one moment, that one music video catapulted her from the pages of Vogue into the mainstream. When the Freedom video was released, it didn't just celebrate models, it immortalized them. Linda Evangelista, Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, Cindy Crawford, and Tasha Napati's 5 faces that defined beauty, power, and style for an entire generation. After that, Linda wasn't just a supermodel. She was a cultural icon. The face, the walk, the presence, she had it all. She had discipline, poise, and mystery. The world couldn't stop watching her. Until, one day, she was gone. For a while, Linda Evangelista simply vanished. No interviews, no red carpets, no new campaigns. The woman who once graced every magazine cover seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth. Naomi was still walking runways. Cindy was building her business empire. Claudia and Christy continued modeling. But Linda? Nothing. Not a single appearance, not even a candid photograph. The silence was loud. Rumors began to spread. Had she retired? Was she ill? Why had she disappeared so suddenly? The truth was something no one could have imagined. Linda Evangelista wasn't hiding from fame. She was hiding from herself. In 2015, Linda decided to undergo a cosmetic procedure called cool sculpting, a treatment marketed as an easy, non-surgical way to freeze and reduce fat cells. It was supposed to be quick, painless, and completely safe. For millions, it was. For Linda, it wasn't. Instead of shrinking her fat, her body reacted with a rare side effect known as paradoxical adipose hyperplasia, or PA. Her fat cells didn't dissolve, they multiplied, hardened, and grew. The procedure left her body visibly deformed. The areas that were supposed to slim down swelled instead, creating bulges that no diet or exercise could fix. The damage was permanent. "Do you see the angle of my arms?" she once said in an interview. "I can't put them next to my body because these bulges push them out at an angle. Imagine trying to get dressed like that. Designers don't want to fit clothes on you when something's sticking out of your body." For over 5 years, Linda lived in near total isolation. She avoided mirrors. She turned down every modeling offer. She stopped going to events, even the ones that celebrated the supermodel era she had helped define. It wasn't vanity that kept her away. It was heartbreak, the loss of her identity. "My son used to say to me before he knew what had happened," Linda said quietly, "Mommy, do you remember when you used to be fun? Why don't you laugh anymore?" Her body image was shattered, but so was her spirit. She didn't recognize the woman in the mirror, and neither did the world that once worshipped her. She fell into a deep depression. At times, she couldn't even bring herself to step outside. And while she suffered in silence, the fashion industry, the world she had helped build, moved on without her. No one called. No one asked. No one cared. It was as if fashion had no place for her anymore. Eventually, Linda decided she could no longer stay quiet. The world might have forgotten her, but she had not forgotten herself. In 2021, she took a step that would pull her story out of the shadows. She filed a $50 million lawsuit against Cool Sculpting's parent company. In the lawsuit, she claimed the treatment had left her physically disfigured, emotionally traumatized, and unable to work, destroying both her confidence and her career. The company denied wrongdoing. They argued that the procedure was safe, tested, and performed successfully on millions of people. But for Linda, that didn't matter anymore. The damage was done not only to her body, but to her mind, her finances, and her sense of self. For years, she had lived behind closed doors, hiding from cameras and from her own reflection. She wasn't angry at fame. She was heartbroken by what fame had demanded from her eternal perfection. What made Linda's story so haunting wasn't scandal or spectacle. There were no meltdowns, no arrests, no tabloid breakdowns. Her fall from the spotlight was quiet, invisible, and deeply human. She wasn't destroyed by the fame machine itself, she was destroyed by the pressure to stay perfect within it. She had done what the world expected of women in her position, tried to look younger, fresher, flawless. But instead of staying ageless, she became trapped in her own silence. Then, in 2022, after nearly 5 years away from the public eye, Linda Evangelista finally stepped in front of the camera again. But this time, it wasn't for a glamorous designer campaign or a $1 million runway show. It was for herself. Her return came through the cover of British Vogue, her first major editorial since the cool sculpting trauma. The shoot was unlike anything she had done before. It wasn't about fantasy or perfection. Every detail, the lighting, the angles, the styling was carefully planned to make her feel safe. Her jawline was shaped with tape and elastic. Her neck was partially covered by scarves and high collars. Linda wasn't pretending the damage hadn't happened. She was simply learning how to face it and how to show it to the world on her own terms. The result was breathtaking. Not because she looked flawless, but because she looked real. Every frame carried a story of pain, survival, and courage. The images showed a woman who had lost everything that once defined her and then found something deeper, strength. In her interview with British Vogue, Linda said softly, "I miss my job so much. But I can't just go out and take jobs like I used to. Not with what I look like now." That line hit the world like a thunderclap. For decades, she had been one of the most photographed women on earth, the face of elegance, control, and glamour. Now, she was showing the truth behind the illusion, that beauty has a price, and sometimes that price is irreversible. Her honesty changed the conversation around beauty and aging in the fashion industry. It wasn't just a comeback. It was a reckoning with perfection, with pressure, and with the impossible standards that women have been forced to live under for generations. Soon after that powerful Vogue cover, Linda made another quiet yet significant step back into fashion. Fendi invited her to star in a campaign celebrating the 25th anniversary of the iconic baguette bag. The photos were simple and classic, black and white, timeless, stripped of glamour. She stood beside Kate Moss, serene yet strong, her expression calm and assured. There were no bright lights or heavy filters, just presence. It was more than a photo shoot. It was a message. For the first time since her disappearance, Linda Evangelista was back not as a supermodel being worshipped, but as a woman who had survived something unimaginable. She didn't need to pretend anymore. In her People interview, she said, "Am I cured mentally? Absolutely not. But I'm trying to love myself again." She wasn't chasing perfection this time. She wasn't chasing applause or fame. She was chasing peace, learning to see herself again after years of pain. This wasn't the same woman who had once ruled runways. This was someone stronger, someone who understood that true beauty isn't in symmetry or youth, but in endurance. And then, just when the world thought Linda had finally reclaimed her light, life tested her once again. Only a few months after her return, Linda quietly faced something even darker: a second breast cancer diagnosis. She didn't announce it publicly. She didn't even tell many of her friends. In her People interview, she revealed that she had undergone a bilateral mastectomy surgery to remove both breasts and believed she was cancer-free. But the cancer returned. "I kept it quiet," she said. "I didn't want to burden anyone." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything she had been through: the surgeries, the isolation, the fear. Once again, Linda vanished from public life, not because she didn't feel beautiful, but because she didn't know if she would survive. Through all of this, one person never left her side: not a designer, not a photographer, but her closest friend and fellow supermodel, Christy Turlington. In an interview with Vogue UK, Linda said, "Christy was the only one who checked on me regularly. She never gave up on me." In a world where friendships fade as quickly as trends, Christy's loyalty was a quiet act of love, the one constant thread holding Linda together when everything else was falling apart. When Linda finally returned to the studio again, it wasn't to impress anyone. It wasn't to prove she still had it. She came back for something much deeper: to reclaim control of her own story. In 2023, Linda and Steven Meisel released a book together, a visual archive of her career and her life. It wasn't just a coffee